Hello and salutations. So this video I wanted to talk about meta and what meta means and kind of how it shapes and impacts the game. So I googled up meta because the way that I always perceived it is whatever the current trend is. So people talk about the spear meta in PvP, and they're absolutely correct. But the spear meta is so marginalized that and there are bigger issues with the game. Just because somebody chooses to use like they talk about overpowered. It's so overpowered. Everybody's forced to do a certain thing in order to survive in the PvP aspect. And so I've kind of broken this down into or kind of logically kind of deciphered this, I should say, into three categories. And the game has three pillars, three categories. It has the PvP combat system. It has the building mechanic, and then it has the survivability. And those three kind of rotate the three pillars. And the combat system, the PvP and combat, I believe is the least important. Your survival and the building mechanics, the foundation of the game is really you spend hundreds of hours building and harvesting and gathering stuff. When you're a PvP, might only be 15 or 20 seconds. And so, yes, the spear mechanic, the meta, is predominantly spear, but there are other metas in the game that are kind of unseen and unknown that exist because there are things that not exploited, but things you kind of have to do it to survive. And so what's happened is it's caused the game to drift from the developer's original intent. And I'll start by these safes. These vaults have such an impact on the game. And so I wanted to talk about a few metas. And so this is the smaller meta, and I see this scenario play out hundreds of times. I've seen it on both servers, and this is like the go-to base. And I've probably seen 20 different versions of this, but these are the two by far the two most common scenarios that I see, and it's because of these vaults, and they really need to rework the storage solution in the game. They need to do boxes, chest, reinforced chest, safe, and then vault. Like they keep the vault, but they need to times the material cost by 5. So instead of costing you 90 brick, it needs to cost you like 500 brick. And then they need to implement a safe that has the same material cost as the vault, but is a much, much smaller footprint, and it will fit in a 4x4 square. And I believe that would break the meta, and you wouldn't, you would gain a little bit, maybe gain 10% more storage capacity in the safe, but it would drive you to only have one safe, and it'd be hard to justify the amount of materials to dump into it to get it. It would and that would drive that playability loop that I'm always talking about and that the developers talk about in their streams. Is that if you really want the safes, it's going to cost you big time, but then it also breaks the meta. So the two metas that I'm seeing crazy is and some of these are actually pretty clever. Like I like, it's like 100,000 people have played the game, and this is what they've come up with. And so here's the first one. So they'll build a building, and I left this half exposed so I can get into the kind of the guts. I can show you the guts, and there's two reasons for this. One is they have a window, because you never want to build a building that has windows, because people can look through the window and loot your benches and stuff from outside the building. They just have to mouse over. So now watch when I put my little dot on the vault through the window. I'm able I got to close up. I'm able to access the vault from inside my building. I don't ever have to run outside to access my vault. And so I see this scenario, right? And there's no way, you can't be on the outside of the vault and look inside the building. So this is like, you can be in here doing all your crafting, and this is a pretty like legit way. And so this is what I see is they'll do this, and then they'll put the ceiling, and then they'll dump a bunch of these end caps. And what that does is it doubles the hit points of the roof. So you have your 100,000, and then you have your 100,000. So now you have 200,000 hit points. And then they'll come over here, and then they'll put ramps. And so they'll go a ramp all the way around their building, and then they'll do the double ceiling, right? The ceiling with the end cap. And so they've but this drives, like, all these buildings look like garbage. I mean, it drives meta to where it doesn't make the game look beautiful. And of course they're trying to survive the PvP and the rating, but when the developers are developing all these elaborate pieces and structure pieces so people get invested and they try to build their beautiful Taj Mahal, none of that pans out, and this is what's left over. This is the end result, basically the meta of what takes place is this crap. So I think kind of they need to take a hard look at the safes, and because one of the biggest attributes of this game is its construction building system. It's beautiful. It's the Unreal Engine is just, and the way that these building pieces and the art and the architecture, there's so much capability, and it drives that replayability loop. But the way that the meta is structured right now, it doesn't feed into that playability loop. It feeds into this stuff. It feeds into making these small boxes with a window that they can stick a safe next to, and then put a bunch of ramps around it to add more wall texture. So they kind of need to take another look at this. They need to because what happens is, and then they'll foundation the whole area up. They'll just run the tier 1 block, and then they'll block off the entire area, and then they'll just foundation spam. That's the word I'm looking for. They'll foundation spam the entire area, but then they'll have this. This will be their main base right here. This is it, and it's like, it's about survivability. So I don't want to run this into the ground, but here's the other meta that I see, right? They'll just build a small box. So, and what they'll do is, then they'll place a vault. I keep wanting to say safe. Then they'll place a vault on top of it, right? Just like this. So then they got their vault sitting on top. Okay, I think that's a little too low. But then they can come in here from the bottom, and then they can access their vault from inside their building. And the meta that drives this is now they have to blow up. What is this? 150,000 hit points. They have to blow up. So it takes 25 bombs to blow through that vault. So they have to blow up the entire vault to get through the ceiling in order to loot your stuff. And then if you wanted to take it to another level, you could do ramps around it. But yeah, this is unfortunately the meta. And yeah, I mean, it's combat functional, but it's so janky. It's like they just need to revisit the storage solution and come up with some better where chests, there's a series of storage solutions instead of the two. Because right now, boxes aren't even really a part of the equation. You just have a chest and you have a vault, and the extremes are too much. And it's not like basically the vault has turned into, people don't even use chests anymore. So it's one solution fits all kind of thing, and you'll get into one of these bases. They won't even have a chest in here. They won't have a single chest. They'll just have the vault and their stuff, you know, like their benches. And same thing with this. They'll just have a bunch of benches and their vault that they can access through the wall frame. This is the window frame. But that's, and I'll show some more videos. This will be the first part, but as I run around on the public server, I'll show you more examples of what I've been referring to, and it'll kind of shape your idea about meta. So when you compare this meta and the resources that people put into this, and then the foundation spamming and the load that it has on the servers compared to the spear meta, out of the two metas, which one do you feel has a greater impact on the game as far as server load, playability, you know, real estate, like, you know, because a lot of times you can't even find a place to build a base because they foundation spam the entire area to keep from getting troubleshade. And then they got, when you finally find their base, they got this crap. And you're basically bogged down the entire server for this because they got, you know, they foundation spam, you know, and then there's a safe. There's a vault. So I've posted videos on my wish list about what I think the solution should be. But if you like this kind of content, and I know I rambled on a little bit, but I was kind of trying to drive home my point about there needs to be a rework to reshape the meta. They need to kind of focus on these replayability loops and drive people away from this type of building architecture, because there's not a lot of resources that go into this. This is very, very minimalistic if you think about it. And so they build this and their base is done, and then what do? You know, they can go farm, or they can go try to do a thrall wheel, but it's not very conducive to that replayability loop. So if you like this, where I kind of get into the weeds and start to break down the logic, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much.